soul stands up, but now I'm starting to need to bleed to fill this cup. It's like I'm starting to need to bleed to fill this cup. Oh.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Working Wing Podcast, a podcast where we come every week and either do some media analysis with some media peppered in or some news analysis peppered in, and sometimes we just review the news. My name is Killian Collins, and joining me, as always, couldn't do it without him, my good friend, longtime debate partner, and a man who is so anarcho-anti-capitalist that he makes many of you guys on the internet look like you really are talking shit by the way he lives. My name is Killian Collins, and that was an introduction that I was kind of improvising on the spot because we couldn't think of.
I was gonna say it doesn't quite track because I worked at Amazon and just bought the PS5 from them. So I'm really not all that separate from the cat. Yes,
right? No, exactly.
Fuck capitalism, but also I really need to play the new Final Fantasy. So
you gotta be on that. Yeah, exactly. And I'm one of those. Yeah, I've had such problems that I'm still on the PS4 and I still haven't even beaten the Final Fantasy remake part 1 because I got stuck at a part where I don't know what the fuck to do, honestly. I'm at one of those parts where I kind of need your help, Tim. But
yeah, we could talk about that off camera. But first, I know we have a hard out today, so let's get right down into it. Today we are discussing episode 3 and then episode 6.
No, before we start this out, Tim, I was going to ask you, why did you pick these 2 episodes?
All right. So I remember episode 3 being an episode that I thought would give us a lot to talk about. Episode 6, I also thought would give us some stuff to talk about, and I think I got less out of it than I had hoped I did. But basically, I wanted to skip over the Ainsley Hayes of it all. And I forgot that she crept up into episode 6 as well.
Yeah, no, see, that was a funny thing because once I saw this character, I was like, oh, who is she? And I was like, oh, she's like a little Republican person that gets peppered in. You're supposed to be like an Aaron Sorkinson Republican on the good guy side type.
Yeah, exactly. She's a good guy Republican.
Right.
Sorkin dreamt up one night.
It's a little hotsy potsy dream that of a person that would eventually become a libertarian or something.
These days she's a fucking these days she's in Congress screaming about how, I don't know, the Justice Department needs to be dissolved or whatever. This model that Sorkin was basing this on did not age well.
Well, I'm not sure if it did. I'm not sure if it was really based on much at all. I think it was based on a certain. I think that's where some people are going. There are some Marjorie Taylor people, Marjorie Taylor Greene people, and there's some people who are a bit more divided. I don't think this person may have exactly.
I don't think this person ever actually existed.
Yeah, I don't think this person actually existed at a point either. I think it's just he wanted to have a Southern person because he was avoiding any of that diversity. He needed to have another female in the cast and someone who really kind of had sexual tension with Rob Lowe. That's what I was getting out of all their scenes together.
Right. They basically had to give Rob Lowe his love interest. I think almost contractually they had to.
Not a secretary that's underneath him, but someone on his level, but he still gets to talk down to. I don't know. That's what I got. We'll get into that, but it's I just want to ask you why those episodes came up, and there's some good answers. But we'll start off with season 2, episode 3, the midterms. Right after the Gunman series, it's there's a midterm in 4 weeks, and I guess they cover Right.
Well, they kind of do a big time skip, right? Yeah. We're skipping around. Where Josh is in recovery in the hospital at the start of this. He's complaining to CJ, or he's mansplaining physics to CJ on the phone from his hospital room. Although I will say, overall, I think this opening sequence kind of highlights what Aaron Sorkin does best. It's snappy, it's quick, it flows well. It's just lots of people exchanging smart dialogue.
Yeah.
The tracking shots are all really well done.
Yeah. A lot of information's been tossed around. Like,
right, exactly. So yeah, like this kind of showcases like what Aaron Sorkin as a writer and filmmaker does best.
Yeah.
Contrasted to the end of the episode, which is Aaron Sorkin at his worst, but we will get to
that. See, I'm glad you brought that up, Tim, because I'm so ready to rip this episode at the end. Yeah, we get to this. Yeah. Basically what gets dropped on the little points I had in there is that, yeah, Toby's saying shit about like the consumer price index is up, and that's out. And I think Sam's
the
arguing
consumer price index is bullshit, by the way.
Yeah, right.
It's all based on like the economics of like the mid 1980s and hasn't been updated since then. And you'll see neoliberals like toss it around and be like, no, actually, people are actually making more money than ever before based on the CPI. So you're actually not poor.
Right.
Despite you might feel poor, but actually, according to the CPI, everyone's doing really well. And it's like, okay, so like before healthcare, housing, and education all like experience exponential growth in cost, everyone's doing great in that reality.
Right. Like, right. It is kind of like, like forget. Yeah. It's one of those like forget about it things. It's more of a talking point you see for like dumb business major Republicans too. Like for just more justification to like for austerity. What's going on with HCD stats? I can't remember what that stood for. Sam announces that Grant Samuels is dead, which I guess was one of the senators that was up for election. I'm guessing.
Yes, he was a congressman. I think who was on the verge of retirement.
Oh,
but that's the impetus. His death is the impetus for them to recruit Sam's college friend.
Oh, well, good thing that didn't happen to a Supreme Court justice, right? Like, good thing that didn't happen. Like, yeah. So they pressed on Sam. Staff saying 81% approval of soft con. A soft con. Okay. No. Okay. So staff is saying 81% approval of a soft.
No, they're doing great. Yeah, everyone loves them because they all got shot at.
Yeah. They're Bartlett stomps in. Stats says the stats are soft. Saying it, so he at least puts in doubt, and chances are looking, but they say Sam's looking to take on the house. Sam talks to Margaret and Zoe. There's tension in the relationship with Charlie being reserved and held back because he knows what the shooting was over. Support.
Trying to read your notes.
Yeah, I'm trying. I didn't have the fresh watch through of this one tonight, but there was support over shooting, focus to the issues. Bart wants to, Bartlett is being all obsessive about his New Hampshire rival.
Yeah,
winning a stupid school district seat. His home thing. He's taking a big personal vendetta out right now. Sam wants to meet up with his buddy Tom and his wife Sarah, and he just basically says we're gonna back you all the way if you decide to run with this. You're gonna be our candidate. DCCC is gonna back you in every way. We want you to run in Grant's district.
Yeah, I just have a note of Tom Machiavelli Seaboard. He's really kind of creepy.
Yes,
way he handles all of
this. It's a dark. Did you happen to notice too? It's like a dark room. Like it's like they just shade it just to be like, yes, come into my office. Like, yes. And at the end of this episode, there's a bunch of like thunder going on too, and I think that adds to the confrontation later on. I
have a whole theory about what this episode is actually about and what it says about Sorkin, but I think I'll wait until closer to the end to unpack that.
Yeah, we get Toby pissed off that CJ didn't go support.
Because Toby wants to use the FBI, wants the FBI to be going after right-wing hate groups.
Yeah.
In a big way. And CJ pushed back against him in the strategy meeting about that.
Yeah, she's saying that it's red meat for the Yeah, I have her down. She's saying it's red meat for the GOP. It's then she mentions to him that she's getting repulsed from reporters on the shooting, and they wanted like the interview her about it. And Toby
about psychological effects. Yeah,
yeah.
Toby is kind of our poster boy for people not doing well in the aftermath of this shooting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, says they're not the story. It's not about us, which is pretty ironic considering that he's the poster boy for this episode of like, we're not the story. It's like, well, you guys are literally telling a story, but okay. Like, okay, Sorkin, whatever. Toby tells Sam at least there's at least, he can push forward with at least 3 card carrying members. And there's at least that, and they need to use that to get around to the Bill of Rights.
I mean, all right, there is a sense in which Toby is right here, because all of these right-wing wackos who get presented in the media as lone wolves, they're never actually lone wolves. They're all radicalized as part of like a group. But they like there is specifically a playbook, like an actual literal pamphlet they hand out called the Lone Wolf Manual that like teaches like potential violent actors to like, all right, make sure you don't have any contact with your, right-wing hate group for a year before you go kill people, because that way the media will just call you a lone wolf and keep the attention off of us.
Yeah, I don't know where they get that handbook, Tim.
It's handed out by these like right-wing. I was listening to a podcast about this last week, which is why it caught my eye. But they're a journalist who was like undercover with like several of these groups in the 90s talked about it. He literally was handed a copy of this pamphlet, the Lone Wolf Manual, that like details steps to take if you want to commit violent action against targets in the United States.
Right, and it's like, I understand if they want to go after a hate group that tried to kill somebody, and or like try to kill the president, like happened with them. But like what Toby is also suggesting is that like, well, he wants like all these groups to
Toby is going too far.
Right, like it is kind of ridiculous because I was going to point out like, well, this is the same type of like attack on assembly that was happening during McCarthyism, that was happening like, that's been used before many times against leftists. And it's like, and the thing is I just want to point out that most of the time when they're like more type of authority is given to the FBI, their main target is not the right wingers. It is the leftists. It is the leftists over and over and over. I'm going to keep saying it. It's like, yes, like having the FBI have less influence is overall good for social movements. Like, sorry, like FBI is there to like.
But it's good for also, but like having, yes. But that does go both ways as well.
Yeah, but Tim, the thing is though, is that like what sides are FBI on?
I mean, it depends. Like, again, if you had been listening to right-wing radio in the late 90s, they would have said the FBI was on a crusade to hunt down right-wing nationalist groups, because they were. After the Oklahoma City bombing, they were actually doing the stuff that Toby like talks about wanting to do.
And where are right-wing hate groups now? They're like more powerful than ever and actually seeking like political legitimacy.
Right.
Like it's like more fucked than ever. But where are the black nationalist groups doing? How are they doing right now? How are they doing for their communities right now? Is like, how are the people who are like just organizing programs to like feed people and feed their community going? How are they doing? Oh no, they were like shot in their beds. They were shot in their beds in cover-ups that the FBI was doing to like make sure that like no one hears about it, because they need to suppress these people specifically. Like some serious genocidal shit, dude. Like, I
understand, Julian. I understand. Like, no, I agree with you. I'm saying it is a thing that does go both ways.
I'm just saying that like 80% of their effort is not towards like what is being projected as their full effort. I think that is what I'm trying to argue. And it's like, that's what I think is like the both ways thing.
Anyways.
Moving on. A lot to say about this episode. You're totally right about that. Tries to. what was that? Tries to get Josh through Donna. Zoe comes over to Leo. They talk shit about the Pendleton Act that their dad is obsessed about. Which is not doing not talking to people who are donators in public offices and stuff. So hey, Goody takes that seriously, but still doesn't stop the whole.
Well, I mean, they bring in the inherent hypocrisy of it that, like, I mean, the White House is still a governmental property. The residential wing of the White House is still government property.
Right. It's all just symbolic. It's just it's Roman shit. Like, I don't know what else to say. The president's all pissed off about his New Hampshire rival in the Board of Education, and Leo and Zoe pop by with CJ there. CJ asks Leo about interviews. She says, "Don't do them." Buzzed. Someone's buzzed. Toby is also. Toby is getting fashy with the public discourse of membership. Can't remember what he was saying though. And then Sam points out these are the same points that were used by racists to attack the NAACP. Yes. And then Toby was like, that was an ultra activist judge. And then Toby has like, you're an ultra activist, Tim. And that was like, and no, that's what my intro was going to be. I was going to call you an ultra activist in some way. Like, it sounds like the type of exchange where we'd start calling each other names like this. I'm like, that dude was this dude. It's like, you're a fucking this thing. But it is that nice little emotional exchange they have there. Once again, great directing, walking through the hallway.
Yes. And then right, and then we get the like CJ is talking to the president, and after that she gets the phone call that Toby's law school friend is a racist prosecutor.
Yeah. And by racist prosecutor, we mean picking out white juries for black defendants.
Right. And so the episode makes clear that there is absolutely nothing wrong with this man being a racist prosecutor.
Yeah.
The problem is him being a racist congressional candidate.
Yes.
Like, at the end of this episode, the result is, oh, he's just going to go back to being a racist prosecutor. And that's fine, because prosecutors are allowed to. He's only racist in the context of using racially targeted tactics to put away black people. And that's fine. That's just the job of prosecutors. And it's funny. And according to the neoliberal mindset.
Well, and it's true, Tim. It's totally true. And like, the biggest problem with that, Tim, is like his biggest problem. They could change like, he could really change his mind. He just needs to be like a black woman from California. And like, all those problems will be over for him, because then they will not give a fuck if he's like a racist prosecutor. They might actually elect him to be vice president. Actually, like, it could possibly happen if the Republican's bad enough. I mean, really.
Yes, indeed. Or you could reform the justice system, but no one involved.
I mean, Tim, that's Tim. Don't come. Don't come. Don't. You don't gotta come here. You don't gotta come here to this country talking about justice reform. You don't gotta just get out of politics. Like, I think that'd be a good VP response to a question like that. We go to a week time skip, and Charlie is briefing the president about the end of the day. He gets snippy with the president about him not getting some little task done.
Yeah, just make the damn calls, president. Yeah. And he's like, "No, I don't think I will, Charlie." Yeah,
because I'm the president of the United States, and I don't feel like making a call. It's like, yeah, and you can shit in your golden toilet and do this. Charlie talks to Jeffrey McIntosh. Jeffrey McIntosh's kid.
I don't have any notes about this, because it's pretty meaningless. It's filler content. It's something for Charlie to do.
Yeah, it's something for Aaron Sorkinson to fill up stuff with heartfelt moments that don't mean anything, because it's just like a black kid and a black father.
Yeah.
And it's like mom's not around, and it's like it's all, and the dad even kind of harps. He's like, "Oh yeah, I remember you. You're the guy that almost got the president killed." And it's like,
right. And it culminates in a conversation between them where the computer tech just says to Charlie everything that he needs to hear.
I know, dude. What the fuck is it? Okay, whatever. We got cut to Sam and Leo talking with Josh. Josh over the phone. Yeah, Tom went to an all-white fraternity, and Sam's just like, "Come on, big deal. Like, come on, dude. Who didn't have a calendar about boofing? All right, dude. Like, who didn't put boofing on their calendar? Shut the fuck up." Sam didn't want to go back on his word.
No, I mean, this guy is fitting the profile for someone who a Republican would nominate to the Supreme Court.
Right, like, like pretty fucking much, like, yeah, Sam doesn't want to go back on his word to his friend, and he storms out. Josh is still on his fucking physics mansplaining shit since he's at home and has nothing to do and is reading up on physics and not politics, which is, hey, you gotta have your thing. You gotta have your thing. I'd be playing video games instead, but that's why I'm not a fucking White House, or so I'm not an idiot. I'm sorry, I am an idiot. Toby's stressed out in his office.
Yes, this is where we get to see, which I mean, you have to love the performances here.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Richard Schiff is on his shit. You wanna put everyone with a white hood in jail? Yes, I do. Yes, I fucking do. Well, he doesn't say fucking because it's TV in the 90s, but he says yes, I do. Who has a problem with that? Put him in my office right now. Mm-hmm. Which is an understandable outlook for Toby at this point in time. Like, yeah. If you put aside all the like moral and legal and political problems with it, Paul being like, fuck everybody who has a white hood, they should all be rotting in jail, is a very understandable sentiment.
I mean, fuck the Nazis, dude. Like, absolutely.
Fuck the Nazis, fuck the Nazis, fuck the Klan, like fuck all of those people.
Right.
Fuck the white supremacists.
Right.
It's like, yes, Toby, I understand 100% where you're coming from.
Absolutely. 10-4, but it's also like, yeah, how much of this is his trauma? How much of this is like post-traumatic?
Oh, it's all his trauma.
Yeah.
It's all his trauma.
Right. And CJ doesn't take shit from him. CJ takes a lot of shit from the press, but she won't take it from Toby. And she yells back at the polemics, at his mostly at it being taken out on her. CJ talks to the president. He's still on that fucking New Hampshire school board kick.
And this is where he's like, nothing we do in the federal government matters. These evil fucks creep in at the local level, and that's where they're like twisting everything. And I hate them so much. And yeah, he's like, I don't even give a fuck about winning the midterms or anything like that. And she's just like, all right, well, no, you do. You definitely do.
So. I mean, you have to, yeah. We cut to a week later and the staff is firing on all cylinders. Another big like information exchanging scene. Everyone's running like chickens with their heads.
Because this is the night of the midterms now, right?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure quite yet. It might be. I got like these 2 pages of notes, but CJ's talking to the it's a reception. Tom and Sarah confront Sam on why they got like attacked and why he didn't fulfill his promise, and Sam just basically said,
that's politics, folks.
Yeah, that's just fuck yeah. It's like that's how we do it in here. You thought you're gonna be a star? You're gonna be a star? They think this is Hollywood here in the White House.
Oh no, it's like you're allowed to target black people and use racist tactics to put them in jail, but you're not allowed to run for Congress while you do that.
No.
But you can go back and continue targeting black people with racist tactics.
Right.
God bless you.
Well, your best friend is Rob Lowe, so I mean.
Right. And this guy probably does declare changing party affiliation to Republican and wind up on the federal bench in 10 years. So
I mean, shit. I mean, we don't even know where his district is, Tim. Like, this could be one of those. This could be one of those like Pennsylvania, like Philadelphia Democrat or something who just like has racist policies. Like, it's just you don't. I mean, we don't know. Like, it's. I mean, apparently Marino, like that dude was a Pennsylvania senator, but we'll get to that later.
Yes.
Yeah, CJ's talking to the talk radio douches.
Yeah.
It's just a fun little jabs at talk radio people. It's so easy to attack talk radio people, and I'm gonna stand up a little bit because my aunt Libby stood up for me, and she announced our show that we did when like there was not a lot of press going around about it. So I'll give a little bit of talk radio some help out there because I do have an aunt who cared and gave it out there, but it is a lot of persona like up playing. It is a lot of making that and just being a personality and selling the personality.
And on some level, like, what is it that we're doing here, if not the 21st century equivalent of talk radio?
Oh, if we got less people listening to us. I mean, shit.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, like, God love us. I mean, we're fucking trying, but like, hell, I mean, this is a little more genuine. At least this is much more of a conversation. But not to say that like radio hosts don't all capture genuine. They have they're better with their pacing and their showing. We could probably learn a thing or two.
We probably could,
to tell you the truth. We get Toby walking in, the president in the White House and in the Oval Office, and he's enjoying himself an egg cream, which is a mix of chocolate, basically just chocolate milk. But he just complicates it. He says like milk, chocolate syrup, and seltzer. And it's like, okay, so chocolate milk with seltzer. And he's like, yeah, it's an egg cream. We've invented it in Boston. It's like, oh, it's so good. I can't stop drinking.
They invented it in Brooklyn.
Oh, Brooklyn. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
It's a Brooklyn delicacy.
Oh, I did not know that. Sorry, Brooklyn. I wonder what that's what Yoo-Hoos are based off of. Anyway.
I think so.
Oh, cool.
But again, this is another scene where it's like, all right, the West Wing, frustrating and dated politics aside, sometimes this show sings because you put Richard Schiff and Martin Sheen in a room and let them just have a scene together.
A lot of the show is the acting. That's kind of what keeps me like coming back. Even for like the funny scenes where it's like I can just tell Rob Lowe and is like, well, I guess I'm with this actor right now. I guess we'll have some sexual tension.
Yeah,
I do this with a lot of actors.
But yeah, no, it's just this was the lynching. That scene is always fascinating. Yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. And then they go down to the reception, right? And that's where Bartlett confronts the War Angels, or not.
Jenna Jacobs. Jenna Jacobs, this conservative radio host.
Yeah.
She seems kind of like she seems like kind of like one of those. But she when the president comes in and the president comes in and everyone's standing up and she's like intentionally sitting down, and the president keeps directing his attention at her and then drives into a polemic on her homophobia. And she rebuttals with like, well, I don't think homophobia is a sin. The Bible does. And it's like, oh, okay. So then he gets into that scene, which is a scene that I've seen over social media and just over like clips of like, famous Wesleyan clips of like this little polemic that Bartlett has about using parts of the Bible to your benefit, and what parts of the Bible that there are that like aren't that like many of these that those Christians don't really pay attention to, and they don't use, and they don't give a shit about. But it's also at the same time, it's like, yeah, like you're also a Christian and like you also have religious freedom, and they're gonna spout their crazy shit that's wrong. Like like I would argue it's wrong too, but like yeah, it's
yeah. I mean, this scene is corny, right? But
yeah, like, it is.
But like, I think I saw this scene years before I ever watched The West Wing, and it always stuck with me, just because I was like a sheltered little Catholic boy who was like angry and disaffected by like all the Catholic bullshit, and like. This scene was really like, seeing this scene when I was like 13 or 14 was like, oh, wow, okay, there are other people out there who see this Catholic bullshit for what it is. So like, I do remember, like, yeah, this scene has always stuck with me, despite how like corny it is of like he slayed this woman with facts and logic. Like that whole idea.
Yeah, of like going to a reception that you were welcomed into and then lecturing a person, like singling out a person to lecture.
Right. No, it's like that. Yeah. It kind of becomes like an internet meme in later years of like people telling stories on Tumblr of like I met a bigot and then I like totally tore her down with like my facts and my logic and my rational speech
and it's
had
like
her devastated and everyone around clapped. And it's like that's not realistic. That doesn't actually happen in the real world.
no.
All right, so I think this is where I'll go into like what I think this episode, what I think or Aaron Sorkin is saying with this episode, and what I think it actually reveals about him as like a neoliberal. It's basically like he's examining all of this like fucked up, corrupt bullshit. If you look at like the power of the FBI to be abused, even by like well-meaning people, or the insidious effect of like Christian bullshit in like local politics, or like hateful people on talk radio, or racist prosecutors.
Yeah.
Like all of these are like corrupt bullshit systems that are like widespread in our country. And like I think what Aaron Sorkin is trying to say in this episode is that, the way you deal with these corrupt systems is that you just got to be a good person in these systems and it'll all turn out right. It's okay that the FBI can be easily weaponized to go after your enemies if you're a good person and you don't do that. It's okay if our justice system can be so easily targeted against Black people if you're really a genuinely well-meaning guy who is just going to embarrass the party. But he's fine. It's just really unfortunate that we had to correctly identify you as a racist piece of shit.
Yeah, the more sad part is that your friend had to lie to you, and like, because he.
How did you deal with this racist congressional or this hateful Christian congressional candidate? Oh, you destroyed him with facts and logic, because good people can just stand up and speak their truth, and that will slay all the enemies.
Right.
And it's like, no. Like that is kind of like the neoliberal ideal, right? Of like, no, we don't actually have to reform any of these systems. We just have to be good people participating in these corrupt systems, and everything will work out well.
Right.
Especially if you're rich, straight, white male.
Yeah, I think that's largely kind of what like the Germans and the neoliberal Germans in the 30s were kind of thinking too, is that like, well, if we stay loyal to the country and stay good people, then we'll be okay though, like, right though. Like,
right, exactly.
Like we'll be good. Like well, it's funny because there's a little dance that like some of these progressives have been doing, like we're doing. They were dancing to fucking Kendrick Lamar's "We're Gonna Be All Right," and it makes me think about like, well, yeah, you're gonna be all right. Yeah, that you're gonna be all right. You're gonna fundraise, do what you need to, right. It's like, right. So, yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned how it's there was a note I had down there about Charlie, like, Charlie and Zoe were kind of like getting back on better terms, and Charlie says that like, yeah, I can go out, like, I don't know what else I can do. I can go out and vote. And I kind of want to make a little note about like electoralism with that, about how liberals are kind of just using electoralism.
You just gotta get out and vote. And it's like, no, we need systemic reforms for all of this shit.
Right.
We really do. Like, we need to pass laws that limit the power of religion to like fuck up and warp our society. Yes. We need laws that limit the power of racist prosecutors. We need to restructure the justice system so that the FBI can't be used to target groups on a whim. Right.
And more importantly is that like a lot of these major things that we can really thank the 20th century and people who have sacrificed things in the 20th century for. Those things did not really come from electoralism. They came from social movements and people putting themselves on the line and like basically doing things that look really easy in the history books. And they seem so fucking simple, but at the time it is radical and terrifying because, and seemingly hopeless. Like that's another thing I'm going to underline. And I'm going to also underline too, that they would kill to be in our position. Like the point in history we are in is truly unique. Like truly it is. And like we're living through it, and we're going to continue to see how it looks. But I was also going to comment too. The whole episode ends with all the staff hanging out on Josh's stoop, having a beer, listening to his physics bullshit, and they find out that they lost the house. The house did not win. They did not lose the house. They never had the house, but
they never had the house. They did not win the house.
Yes,
and they did not, and they didn't lose the Senate, but they didn't gain any ground in the Senate.
Right. So it's basically like, yeah, they lost, and they go into a dumb little lecture that I was going to make a note about this one. That what do you say about a government that goes out of its way to protect its citizens that try to destroy it? And I have to just say, like, what about the citizens? What I think about the citizens that, like, you know, actually try to better their government? Oh, they like kill them. Like, yeah, they like fucking kill them if they don't want to play ball. If they want to actually like change and reform a system, like, yeah, they're gonna murder you. Like that's what they thought about. Like, that's what they thought about Martin Luther King. And I'm also going to point out that he died on the picket line. That's where they got him at, because they really didn't like that shit. They really didn't like the focus going off of a racial issue and going into more of an economic perspective of like wanting to make a poor person's party and wanting to end racism through economics. Like that type of thing is threatening to these people.
Yeah, no, towards the end of his life, he had correctly started to talk about racism as an ultimately economic issue.
Yes. We have the power to change that like immediately. It's going to be with a radical change, but like we have the power to change that immediately. And that idea needs to spread. That idea needs to spread around.
Yeah. Class consciousness as an anti-racist weapon.
Yeah.
The
cure for the picket line. I'm sorry. The cure for racism is the picket line.
Yes.
And that is where he died. That is like that he died fighting for that. And he didn't get killed by it. He got killed by people trying to oppose that, which his family is even saying that like the killer that is sitting in jail currently for his murder isn't the guy, that it's like that the federal government have a lot more to do with it. And they know that. And they're not revealing their information because more than likely they had a hand in it.
Yeah. And
then they say, God bless them. And then they all repeat, God bless America.
Which again, like, yeah, that's Aaron Sorkin at his worst. Because we've had it several times in this show already, where an episode ends with all of them saying some fucking corny piece of shit. Where, like, remember that episode in season 1 where they all end with saying, like, I serve the pleasure of the president. Yeah. They all going around. And, like, he loves that shit. Yeah. Where it's like, end an episode where they all go around and say something fucking stupid. God bless America. Killing God bless America.
And it's, you know, it's more just like the shit right beforehand of just like, you know, like, hey, like, you know, like we love the people who like even try to destroy our government. It's like, yeah, but the people who try to fucking like change your shit, like you just fucking. Yeah. God bless that. God bless neoliberalism. They came, they saw he died, you know, hey, that's just their policy. You know, it's just, hey, you don't want to play ball. Get the fuck out of the stadium. Anyway, we then skip 2 episodes into episode 6, which is called titled Lame Duck Congress. So Lame Duck Congress, for those who don't know, or lame duck is basically meaning that like it's a president who, well, usually like
it's any kind of body that's been voted out of power but hasn't actually left power yet. Yeah.
And they can kind of like, usually they're kind of in a rush. It implies they're in a rush to pass laws they won't be able to pass in the future.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
We got CJ starting off with the press, and she's getting questioned on a couple things, but mostly the test ban treaty is the big issue, which is I'm guessing they don't go into detail about this, and it bothers me, but I'm assuming it's just a treaty about like banning nuclear tests.
Yeah, that's something that various world leaders including the Russia and the United States, have been talking about since the mid '60s, and it's still today in 2023 not a thing.
Yeah, I mean,
that's kind of the point. Because Sorkin is writing in the mid '90s, where there was actually a push to, because I was just reading about this in the 1990s. In 1991, Gorbachev declared a moratorium on nuclear testing in Russia, and H.W. Bush declared a similar one in America. So the two big nuclear powers had both declared moratoriums on nuclear weapons testing.
Yeah.
And this treaty emerged in the mid '90s. Clinton signed it in I think 1997 or 1998. So like right around like a couple of years before this episode was written.
Yeah.
But the Senate did not ratify it, and still is not to this day.
Yeah, it's yeah. It's funny too, because the whole issue with like nuclear arms, that was never something that was ever voted in either. So like, how are you going to vote it out?
Well, no, the vote is because the Senate has the power to ratify treaties. So this was a treaty that was worked out between Russia, China, India, a bunch of countries who don't even have names have signed on to this treaty.
Yeah.
But all the big nuclear powers all agreed in principle to this. You know, the UK, you know, all the big ones who have nukes, kind of their leaders agreed in principle. But
wait, they need everyone else to sign on, though. That's the thing, is they need.
Well, because there's two steps to the United States entering into a treaty. Step one is that the president has to sign it. And then once that treaty is signed by the president, he has to submit it to the Senate, and then the Senate has to ratify it in order for it to actually go into binding effect.
Oh, Jesus.
So at this point in both the West Wing universe and in the real world, Clinton had signed this treaty, and he had submitted it to the U.S. Senate for ratification, and they did not ratify it.
Yeah. That's a problem, especially like looking at the global situation today and how close we are to nuclear war, like on a daily basis now. And it's not looking better. It's like,
right,
kind of wish there was a
the
disarmament.
thing is that like there hasn't actually been any nuclear testing on the part of Russia, China, or the United States since the 90s. But that's kind of why this is a worthless treaty that doesn't really matter, because all the major belligerents,
the threat's still there.
The threat is still there.
Yeah.
We don't need to test hydrogen weapons because we know we have them and we know they work.
And also,
the same is the case with China and Russia and India. And then the countries that were worried about getting them, like Pakistan and North Korea, they're not going to care about any treaty.
No, like, well, that's the thing. And honestly, with like the ban shit, it's like what with the ban on like with like the testing, it's like most of the time these countries are doing this shit, they're doing it just to like show off. Like that's really the real purpose of it, is to be like, well, we just had another test and it was this big, and that's the entire. It's to intimidate and it's to deter. Like that's I think the point of these fucking things anyway. And the big countries don't need to do that because they just be
right. Russia can
like,
just say, everyone knows Russia has double nukes. So all they need to say is, yeah, we're going to give command and control to the field, and everyone starts shaking in their boots.
I mean, America's we're the country that's actually dropped them. Like
we're the only country that's ever dropped them. That's true. Right.
So I mean, I think everyone's pretty scared that we're gonna do it again too. Like I'm pretty scared we're gonna do it again. Yeah, I'm scared of anyone doing it again, really. And it's
nuclear warfare is one of those things where it's just like, I don't really worry about it because like if it happens, then life on this planet is fucked. There's absolutely nothing that you, me, or anybody else could do to like lessen that risk, really. So
I mean, there's things that people can do, but like they're not in our position. I grant you that. But granted, Tim, there are people who like are able to stop this thing. It's just that like sometimes they're in seats of power and sometimes they're not. And sometimes like they don't know how to negotiate. And sometimes they create security concerns and like they don't ripen the conditions for it. And that's kind of why I was just saying, like, this is a hard problem because like, it's not like nuclear weapons were like decide, like the president, like, you know, decide, like this wasn't a decision that just like was made by people. This is not a decision that was ratified by the Senate or anything. This was just keeping up with technology.
And that's the thing about technology is that it's almost impossible to put a scientific concept back in the box.
Yeah.
Like you cannot make the world forget the science behind nuclear weapons.
No.
And especially when like the future of our entire like, you know, climate and energy crisis like situations is probably in the realm of nuclear power or fusion power.
Yeah.
And like, if you make a fusion reactor, you can make a fusion bomb too. Like the technologies are inextricably linked. It's the whole problem that's the whole problem with like nuclear inspection. It's like, you know, is Iran building a reactor or do they want to build a bomb? You know, it's actually really hard to tell unless you have eyes on the ground.
I mean, I think they kind of need the reactor, and I think you can keep on sending in people to like inspect it. Like, I think, but that's just me. Anyway, good discussion at the start of it, but we're gonna keep getting into it as well. We'll see what the West Wing staff has to think about it. The West, so CJ's getting grilled in the press about the test ban treaty. She said the Senate's going to pass the new Senate's going to pass the treaty regardless. Danny asked if the president has considered bringing up a lame duck Congress. She says the president hasn't considered this, and Josh says, "Oh no, she stepped into it."
No, Danny corners the White House into considering calling a lame duck session.
Yes,
Danny Kincannon manipulating White House politics from his position in the press box. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Donna's giving Josh shit. I'm guessing about like her bourgeoisie. No.
Killian. This is Donna, the fucking labor leader. Killian. You gotta stand. I think you must have misunderstood what Donna was talking about. This is Donna saying OSHA has issued a new set of recommendations to protect workers, and she wants the White House to formally adopt them as a matter of like national policy. And everyone else is like, yeah, no.
Yeah, but what are her concerns, Tim?
I mean, her concern, her entire thing is ergonomics in the workplace. That's what this is about. And whether it's carpal tunnel from typing or people getting like fucking like shoulder strains from like operating a machine, it's the exact same principle.
The same principle of people getting carpal tunnel.
Yes. It's all about repetitive stress and uncomfortable positions, and these OSHA regulations are about ergonomics in the workplace.
Okay,
Donna herself wants them to redesign the keyboards to prevent repetitive stress, but like it's the same policy of like you know, Amazon should readjust its machines so that people aren't like lifting overhead 10,000 times a night. It's the exact same principle.
Okay, I can see some of that argument. The hard part for me to buy, Tim, is I never see Donna doing work. Like, no, seriously, I see her just talking. And it's like okay, but like all these things she's talking about, I never see her doing.
Well, that's more of a function. You never really see any of these people do work. Like all of these people are just standing around talking the entire time.
That's pretty much what because that's the thing. Because to me, it sounds like the office people at my job who are just kind of like, oh my god, well we have to worry about like we have a casual Friday to keep you keep you motivated to do this. And like meanwhile, like I'm like third shift, like working this shit at night, like kind of just seeing like, oh well. They left us like the leftovers of a cake here and invited us with an email. And of course the email is like popping off like 84 fucking times. Like
I mean, that is a problem. And I feel your pain on that, Killian, but this is about real ass OSHA work regulations that real ass
OSHA regulations that
I am passionate about the issue of repetitive stress injuries in the workplace. And it's just now that companies are starting to take this seriously here in the year 2023.
I mean,
it's taken way too long, but Donna was on the ground talking about this shit back in the late 90s. All right.
I'm sorry, Tim. I'm kind of scoffing because you were so adamant against truckers protesting, and it's like, but like with their concerns that you might not even agree with, Tim, but you're annoyed by it. And with this like white collar like person who works for the White House, you're going like she's based and fighting for it. Because I have here just like, yeah, bourgeoisie labor. Yeah, you know, people who like act like they know like a fucking 10-hour workday. Yeah, it's, you know, that type of thing. Because it's like, because I think it might just be the presentation, because it is just like, my whole thing is like, I saw how like Margaret was typing on the keyboard, and I'm like, yeah, you're like mocking it. Like you're like not even typing.
No, that was a fucking organized labor action. All right. And since when do you not support organized labor actions?
That organized labor action. So is sighing. Okay, let me guess. Is sighing activism now? Is going like, is that activism, Tim? Is that active? I mean, that makes a lot more active. That makes a lot more on the activists on the internet.
Work slowdowns are absolutely a valid form of labor action. Slowdowns are absolutely a valid form of labor action.
And look how quickly it got broken.
I mean, yes. In this case, it got broken because the show has a neoliberal mindset that is actively contemptuous about the plight of the working people. But the whole point of our show is that we don't have to adopt Aaron Sorkin's contempt for working class issues. We can look at Donna and say, "Fuck yeah, she's on the right side of this issue."
I guess I'd have to talk to a real person about it. Because the thing
You're
is,
talking to one right now, my dude. I've been in the safety training classes at warehouses where they talk about this shit. Like, I know about ergonomics in the workplace.
Yeah, and the thing is, Tim, is it kind of just seems like a cop out. But I mean, I mean. Yeah, I really don't see your point to it. I was, because the whole time she was talking about this too, I kind of was like turning it off, where it's like, yeah, you're talking about like slight carpal tunnel. It's like if a truck is just going like,
in her context, it's carpal tunnel, which, first of all, carpal tunnel ain't no joke.
Right.
Carpal tunnel like fucking sucks.
Right.
But it also applies to, like I said, like overextension injuries, because you're like reaching up to the top level of a like 12-foot high space, 100 times a night. And so when Amazon redesigns their algorithm so that they prioritize picks in the middle of the container instead of at the top, that actually does make a difference in cutting down like workplace injuries.
I imagine it does. Because it happens thousands of times a day, and that's part of their business. Like, that's part of what they make people do every day.
Yeah.
Okay. Like that's totally fine. Like that.
And it's the same thing. Like, if you're like a machine operator,
is
like
it the same thing?
Moving the button you have to push from like up here to down here, like that's a big thing. And without regulations mandating that they do that, companies aren't going to do that, because that means that they have to spend money like retrofitting their machines, and no one really wants to do that.
Yeah, they kind of hire safety people who are willing to look past that type of thing and pretend that they don't. Anyway, fucking
anyway.
Go
I didn't expect this. Then we have Tales from the.
I'm still surprised, because like you were so mad at like saying that those truckers like weren't even working.
Well, that's a completely fucking different. No, that's a completely fucking.
I mean, that's the thing is I might not agree with their labor action, but you know what, Tim, you're right. I maybe should stand in solidarity with them. Maybe you are right about it, and maybe you should stand in solidarity with people that you might not agree with their cause because you don't understand it either. Like maybe not. Like maybe.
Well,
you should...
I never said they don't have a right to do that. I never said that the government should sweep them up and like go and put them in jail. I said that like what they were doing was like fucking stupid, and that it wouldn't be replicatable in other parts of the country, and it wasn't.
kind of like Donna's little movement here, like, or lack thereof. Like, but hey, but you know what, Tim, I think this kind of shows how, like, each of us have our own biases based on our own experiences that we use against other workers.
My bias was against Corona disinformation, which is like what the group that you're talking about was peddling, and I think that is fucking stupid. They have a right to protest if they want to, but the thing that they were protesting was like sensible policies relating to like limiting the
to let their employer put whatever they want in their bodies, right?
Okay, are you okay?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, does your employer have the right to put something in their body? Like, that's kind of like, you know, that gets into that argument, Tim. And it's like they do have something to say about that, whether or not you disagree with like what their takes are about like whatever virus thing. But it's like it does get down to that kind of principle too. So there's give and takes with it too. Because anyway, moving on. CJ walked into it. Sam says the president should be considering this lame duck session. He wants to see a Democratic push on the Foreign Relations Committee. Wants the president to call a lame duck session. Staff negotiates with the Oval Office with the president, and everyone's kind of bickering and fighting and talking over each other. Toby pushes the session. He's getting a better chance now than ever. And then CJ is... CJ says the extraordinary occasion has not yet been met. I can't remember what line that was about.
Because the Constitution, I think, says that the Congress or the president can call. I don't know if it's the Constitution or just federal law that says that the president can call Congress into session under extraordinary circumstances.
Yeah, and it's like, what's an extraordinary circumstance?
Yeah, Josh and Toby are trying to argue that this one senator saying what committee appointment he wants is an extraordinary circumstance. And CJ was saying, like, that's stupid. Yeah.
I'd agree too. It's kind of like how the Secretary of Defense or whatever her name was kind of saying that, like, I can be his was it like personal assistant, like
chief assistant to the president under extraordinary circumstances. That was the national security advisor.
Yeah.
So the Secretary of Defense.
Yeah, national security advisor, but. More vague language in our government that holds a lot of power, so that's great. Leo wants the leadership's temperature on the session, and he shoots down talk of other bullshit. Leo gives a reasonable critique to the president on a lame duck session, saying that, like, might not look the best. I think that's what he was saying.
He was basically saying, if you do this, you got to win, or else you're going to look stupid. Yes. So if you're not going to win, you shouldn't do it.
Yeah. If you're going to go big or go home, and if you have to go home quick. And
that's when, this is when he dresses everyone down for being children.
Yes.
And then they get into this whole thing where, like, the Washington Post has written 4 editorials about the White House staff. And, like, here's where Aaron Sorkin is on this bullshit. Because the Washington Post would never write this much about the White House staff, because people do not fucking care that much about the White House staff.
Yeah.
Like, four editorials in 4 weeks about the White House staff, that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, Trump ran one of the most, like, chaotic and corrupt White Houses that we've seen in modern history. And we got, like, maybe 3 stories over his entire 4-year term that was actually about, like, how things were running in the White House. Yeah. It's just not that interesting, and people don't actually write about it that much.
No. Yeah. So you basically hit that on that, because I was kind of wondering, like, well, what the fuck do they care? It's basically like free publicity. It's like
exactly.
Free publicity when they get to write their books. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Moving on. Sam and Toby game out their plans to go and wrangle House leadership and try to, like, bring a plan to the president. Sam wants to shift his some of his bitch work to the GOP. I put down GOP intern, but this was the Ainsley Hayes you were talking about, the GOP, like, staff member.
Yeah, so the past 2 episodes were all about Ainsley Hayes joining the staff of the White House. Basically, she's like literally in her first appearance on the show, she's described as, like, a leggy blonde Republican. And Sam's like, I thought they were all stupid. And then she beats him in a television debate, and Bartlett hires her. And that's literally like what the 2 episodes we skipped after is her joining the White House staff.
Like a Republican who went to a debate club.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's it. Like, it's just kind of like, so someone who like can argue rhetoric. Like,
yes,
that's it. Like they're on some bullshit, but they can argue rhetoric at least. Okay, well.
Then you get some Sorkin-ass speeches about how she's like, no. She's like talking to her Republican friends and they're making fun of the White House staff. She's like, no, they're good public servants who love America. And you know what? I'm proud to be there. I'm their lawyer. Because she actually worked, you wouldn't know from this episode, but she actually worked in the White House counsel's office.
Okay. So, yeah, she mentioned she went to Harvard Law School. So it's like, okay, so she must have like a law degree, some law background.
They all have law degrees, I think.
Okay, they all do.
Like Josh and Sam definitely have law degrees.
So Danny really is like, the least educated out of the bunch. Like, it's like, oh, you're just like a dirty journalist who like, went to a journalism school.
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't take the bar. Oh, you're an idiot.
Pretty much, which is also probably why they talk down to CJ all the time.
Probably, yeah.
Because she was like a public relations major.
Yeah.
Which, to be true, I always looked down on the communication majors when I was in school because they were mostly majoring in partying, in my experience. But that might have just been the fact that I went to UW-West.
Yeah, well, I think that's most colleges in America. And second of all, Tim, I think many people end up making fun of like, history.
Oh, I was a history major.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's like people, and that's the thing that sucks. Like, even if you have like a bachelor, if you have a bachelor or any of this, it's like you get fucked. Like, you're kind of.
I have a history bachelor's degree and I'm a machine operator at Amazon. So like, how did
Tim,
my life turn out?
You can teach abroad if you want to, at least.
Well, you have that option.
Yeah, throw that at me when we get really drunk and argue at each other and we have to bring up personal shit. Bring up at least you can go abroad and like teach somewhere else. That's how you get me with that. That's a freebie there, friend. Denny then follows CJ. While she's been berated by the editorials, and she calls up fake calls up the Senate Majority Leader to signal this to Danny that she's going to call a session or that it's going to happen. Donna's she's harping on the ergonomic shit to Josh, and
Josh's argument here is basically like, yes, we understand that this OSHA thing would like drastically cut down injuries across the entire workplace for like.
I'm not sure that it would either, but like,
I disagree because ergonomics is actually more important than you might think. But it's a good point because they say it would cost billions of dollars, which again is like, yeah, these companies don't want to spend money like retrofitting their machines to like make things easier and safer to use, and so the White House has no interest in pursuing it.
Yeah, and then we get Charlie tells him about Koronov, the Ukrainian. Some of the Ukrainian representative is out in front of the White House, drunk as shit in his car. He's pissed off and he wants to talk to the president, and Josh has to go to talk to him. Sam asks Ainsley for his help, and she's all smirky about it. Basically tries to pass off his bitch work on her, and she smells that, and she basically goes que pro quo, like, what am I gonna get out of this? And all she wants is to be at the meeting the meeting that Sam's gonna have with like GOP. I'm guessing like they're like GOP swing votes in the House or something, or in the Senate for the nuclear ban treaty. Like, he's supposed to be talking to GOP members about that.
Yeah, I think the people they go talk to are GOP, the staff of GOP senators.
Yeah, but she says she wants to learn from the master, and he gets flattered by it and says that like, you women, like, it doesn't work all the time, and she says like, yes, it does, and there's more sexual tension scenes.
But again, she gets so much screen time early on in the season, it makes you think like she's going to be a significant character. I'm here to tell you, she's not.
No.
Forgets about her pretty quickly.
It's another hot chick that just like says stuff to Sam and bounces off of Sam, kind of, and like only kind of pops in once in a while to kind of do bitch work. Like it's kind of like it's kind of how they position Donna. It's just that like this episode, it's like Ainsley this time. It's just it's like it just sucks because I kind of don't know what her role is, and like they do kind of treat her like she's like an intern because I thought she was like initially like with no introduction to this I thought it was like, oh, this is like a new intern here or something, and it's like she's like,
and that's my bad. You would have gotten way more familiar with her had we watched the previous 2 episodes, but
it also just might be like it might just be a flaw of the writing too, because it's just like her position in this episode is like person who does
I mean, that's the thing is that after her introduction, she's just kind of around whenever Sam needs someone to argue with.
Yeah, well, and that's what it seems like. It just seems like Sam just needs someone to argue with and like kind of flirt with, and that's because that's all I got out of this scene is it's like sexual. Because I thought they were going to his office and fuck.
Yeah, we get Sam talking to Josh and Leo about the Koronov, and then we get a fun callback to season 1 and Lori. Mm-hmm. Where Josh is just like, she's with a woman who is either a translator or a prostitute. Yeah. And Sam's like, is it? And Josh is like, nope, it's not anyone you know. Yeah. I just thought it was a good joke.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you pointed that out because I had that written down. Yeah, tells Toby they don't have the votes. Charlie's offended by Charlie's baffled by Karnoff's sense of audacity to Leo. Leo says he's our kind of crazy, which I'm like, yeah, you know.
Which is why it makes me think that this is about Viktor Yushchenko, the central banker who later became president of Ukraine. Because that's like he was Clinton's kind of crazy for
sure. A crazy on their payroll. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like right. That's it's very
a strong opposition to the Ukrainian Communist Party, which is really all they cared about.
Don't care about any of those right-wing elements that they might believe either. You know, they're just hailing for cabs out there. Donna tells Leo her off. Donna tells Leo her office labor woes, and he tells her type slower. CJ gives Leo her 2-minute pitch on like White House vocab, which one of them was like something about like changing Rogue Nation to Nations of Concern. Danny wants a 3-part feature. She's like adamant against it. Leo stands his ground and says, just give it to him. It's free publicity for us when we write our books. He didn't say that, but that was the implication because of the implication. Toby then tells Leo the situation about the votes because he had lunch with these Republicans and doesn't know who. He basically says that check your backyard. The Republicans told him check your backyard and see who's not going on your side.
Really, the only thing I always remember from the scene is these guys and how they order food. Because it's so over the top and it's ridiculous. But I do, whenever I'm at a restaurant and I ask for like a substitution on a menu item, I always think about these guys. Like this scene lives rent free in my head whenever I'm like, can I have that on wheat instead of like rye or whatever?
It's also funny too because it's kind of that like it kind of makes me think the inside of like, is this what neoliberals think Republicans really are, where they're just like,
no, I don't think so. I think it's just a little quirk that Aaron Sorkin thought of for these 2 random throwaway characters. I really don't think it's a commentary on Republicans. If anything, it's a setup for like. It's just a little bit moment for Toby of like Toby's a real one who doesn't care about all this fancy Washington shit.
He just wants the steak cooked. He just
wants steak cooked. Yeah.
Which to be honest, I'd be like, you're an asshole. Like the other people who want the specific shit, I'd be like, okay, they like particular shit. I'd be, you're an asshole. You didn't specify.
That makes me.
I just want it cooked. It's like, who the fuck then go home, Ron Swanson. Go home. Like, go home, mister. Go home, mister. Like, how do I want it cooked? Oh, you fancy friend. It's like, well, dude, what kind of restaurant are you at? Like,
yeah.
It's like, no, if you hate your steak, say it's well done. Say it's well done. If you don't know anything about steak, say it's well done. There you go. I think he's more of a bastard.
No, don't follow that advice, everyone, unless you want like tasteless steaks. Just say medium rare.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Is that this guy? This guy's gonna waste a perfectly good steak that's like could have been eaten by someone, and a good ginger ale. And me as a working man, I'm saying this is showing the opposite. of what a working man would do. A working man would take that home from his failed meeting and go and heat it up in the microwave with shame, like a working person does in America, at work, hopefully, you know?
Well, I will say my grandpa, who was about as like working class as you get, he always liked to steak small time, which I never understood.
You know, maybe that's because all the spirit got beat out. I don't know. Some people do like it. You know, some people think that cucumbers, you know, taste better not pickled. So you know, I don't know what to say about that.
I like a raw cucumber. I do.
I like them too, but not more than a pickle.
Anyway,
he wants that they get off. They mentioned the senator's name. They're going to talk to is a guy Marino is from Pennsylvania, and the pitch is, and So Toby wants to like go up and have Leo set up a meeting with Marino, and Leo's like, "What's your pitch?" And he says the pitch is fuck the people who didn't vote. Fuck the people who didn't vote for you and made you a lame deck senator. He said, like, you just use it as a quick fuck those people. So it's like kind of makes me think of like, oh, so you want like a total Scott Walker approach where it's like this. It's like where it's a different type of issue he's going for, an issue that I would overall agree with. However, it's the type of thing that like Scott Walker totally did do, where it's just like, fuck you, the state of Wisconsin. Let me just fuck you a little bit more before I leave.
Yeah.
And then he goes into his office to find out that the Ukrainian Karanov has invaded his office, sitting in his desk, and he's pissed off that he can't meet the president. Sam and Ainsley are meeting with the GOP people about the nuclear treaty ban, or the nuclear testing ban treaty. They argue that it's like, well, you make us sound like we're bloodthirsty for just like having less nuclear weapons. It's like, you kind of want you to not get into the world.
This entire debate is meaningless because it's like, it's all going to end the nuclear holocaust whether we're testing the weapons first or not.
Right. And it was funny because like Sam has a total negotiation tactic that made me think of like all the Ken dolls that we had, because it made me think of Kendall Roy from Succession, where he was just kind of saying like, look, all the bullshit about business, that doesn't matter. What matters is there room for movement? And they're like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, what kind of movement? He's like, I don't know, man. Like, we got each other's dick in each other's hands. Like, what can we do to like, I don't know, like move things along? And I'm like, oh, so this is the master. Like, this is the fucking master here. Is like this guy who's like only.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Very, very. You're right. Actually, you're absolutely right. Very big Kendall Roy here.
Like just not really having another tactic and just saying like, look, like, what do you want? And they're like, well, we don't know. We had this meeting because we're hoping you'd offer something. And they just leave. And then
Ainsley chews them out for being schmucks, partisan hacks who are making a dumb decision here. But the thing is that they're all very confident that they will eventually pass a nuclear test ban treaty, which I just want to remind you here, 24 years after this episode was written, it still has not been, and probably never will be.
We do need like nuclear de-escalation, like majorly still though, like majorly more than ever. Margaret is typing slow because Donna told her about like
rise.
From the people who stomp out unions. So yeah, I'm pretty much saying they could reap what they sow. Josh gives Leo then like crushes her little like labor movement by like staring at her in the face, because I want her on my picket line. People who fold like that. They'll do great when the government puts their guns on them. I know they'll do fantastic. Josh then gives Leo the Marino pitch. Leo is like still unsure about it because the pitch sounds like it sucks. Donna is still on. White House. Yes, it's still on about it. Then Josh tells her that White House employees are exempt, and she's like, "That's bullshit." Which I would be like, "Yeah, that is bullshit." Actually, like they're allowed to should apply to everyone else. Should apply to you too. Tries to pass Karanov's, Meta's, Donna's. Wait, tries to pass. Oh yeah, he tries to pass off.
Donna Mark's ambassador to Ukraine. She just basically sent him to go and bore the fuck out of this Ukrainian dude for
Yeah.
until
until Bartlett has time to like run into him and say, I can't talk by. Sam lectures Ainsley in his office in
the employee fraud thing.
Yeah.
Which, all right, like this is kind of like the last major thing I have notes about. Because this also concludes when Sam and Leo are talking about this.
Yeah.
The entire idea is that small businesses fail because of employee fraud. That's the main reason small businesses fail. So if you just cut out the fraud,
and they mentioned not big business, not outsourcing or big business, and I'm just
most small businesses fail because most people who start small businesses are dumb fucking assholes, and most small businesses fail because most businesses are just bad ideas or not feasible in the long term, and most small businesses that succeed because they get infusions of cash, usually from the entrepreneur's parents and friends. Like,
so the difference is capital. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, the difference is capital. The difference is that if you have capital when you start your business, you have a better chance of being successful. And if you don't have capital, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah, and
it has nothing to do with fraud.
Yeah, it doesn't. It has to do with the market deciding.
Yeah, and then Leo, when Sam is talking to Leo, he's like, well, Leo, if we give small businesses these fraud protections, then we want to raise the minimum wage. Small businesses will get in line with that because, they won't be worried about all this fraud. And it's like, no, that's not how that fucking works. If you give small businesses fraud protection and then say, hey, we're going to raise the minimum wage, guess what? They're going to say, fuck you, we don't want to pay our people. Because small businesses are evil. Like, small business, like capitalism is evil. And so small businesses in a capitalist system are not less evil. I have worked for a number of small businesses in my life. The people who run small businesses are just as capable of being greedy, capricious fucking assholes on the same level of any corporate manager. Like, there is not some like hallowed sainthood conveyed upon a small business that goes away when you become a medium-sized business. Small businesses want to fuck their employees in order to improve their bottom line, just like every business does.
Right, I get that, Tim. But at the end of the day, if you need to drum up some business, and I think you'd agree with this, Tim, wouldn't you agree that there's like some markets that like probably would be better private?
Yeah.
Right. And that would require like a person running a business pretty much though, right?
Sure.
Like running it with like a market deciding the profitability, and like the profitability would be decided like a different way than like a planned economy. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not willing to say that like small businesses are all evil. I don't think you're quite getting at that too, but I do see your point about like the haloization, the same.
No one who runs a business is ever going to voluntarily decide to pay their people more at the expense of their own profit.
I mean,
that's why you need government regulations dictating things like the minimum wage you have to pay somebody.
Right. No, certainly. No, that's certainly. And you need the government to kind of like get in there and like support rules that like would enhance an economy so that because I think my rebuttal against her small businesses thing is it's like, well, if you want small businesses to succeed more, you need to alter the economic landscape. That if you want, and it's certainly too, if it's like you want certain businesses to do better, if you want strip clubs to do like not like if you want strip clubs to kind of die down more, there's like incentives you can give to like other businesses and not give them to like those businesses. Like if there's like you want to reduce on like liquor stores or something like that, something that actually like is addictive and harms people in society, and actually would probably be better off with less of them. But people don't want to give those up. There's a ways to plan an economy so you can decentivize those type of things. Like, so
yeah, but like specifically, he's talking about like, oh, this will help us when we go try to raise the minimum wage. Well, guess what? The minimum wage hasn't been fucking raised since Aaron Sorkin wrote this episode.
Well, the last person who raised it was George W. Bush, and that's what's fucking scary.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter what you give businesses; they are never voluntarily going to say, yes, we want to pay our employees more.
Yep. Yeah, pretty fucking much. Yeah. And then I have in here, Toby meets up with Marino. Does not go well because basically what everyone was telling him about Marino just being a lame duck and just wanting to just be done and not wanting to fight anymore was basically true, and that all came to fruition.
Yeah. You said the people of Pennsylvania have spoken, and I'm going to respect their wishes.
Right. So and Toby didn't try to find another way. He was trying to keep on going with
Well, basically,
fuck
he was
them argument.
everything on Moreno. And once Moreno backed out, the entire project died.
Yeah. So and then he comes back and he comes back to the White House and totally nuke scares a White House tour guide or crowd, giving a tour. Ainsley argues your point to Sam. They keep arguing about that same thing we just talked about. Danny and CJ have an exchange before they go to meet the president, and kind of exchange about who's going to talk to him first. Kind of like a little bitter lovers quarrel type of scene. CJ goes in, asks the president about a couple things, but basically he approves that. He says you should let Danny do the feature. You're having personal issues with him. Danny comes in. He has a little silly gesture about canceling his subscription. Leaves the office, to which CJ reveals that you should take the job that you've been offered. I know about the job offer. And Danny's like, "Oh, I want to be a White House correspondent. I want to be a White House correspondent." Though. Yeah. It's but you have a problem with that. It's yeah, we can totally do that. And she actually has a point of if she wants to do that job of keeping all this information particular information away from journalists, and not have journalists have less influence over the White House.
Sleeping with one is not a good idea.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. There's a major conflict of interest there. But Donna gives Koronoff, her frilly white lace bourgeoisie labor struggles. The president interrupts and says he can't talk and that the meeting is done. Gives him the whole little presidential shake your hand and tell you that I'd love to talk to you about these things, but you have people to talk to us about. You have people to talk to them about.
You'll be president one day once we get our coup in order, and we'll work with you then. And then he walks out.
Don't worry,
the episode ends with another stirring Aaron Sorkin thing where Ainsley looks at all these people running around working and is so awed and moved by it.
Yeah, well, before we get to that, they get to they Sam and Ainsley present their little.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah,
but I was just at the last part of it is that Ainsley at the end, I was going to point out was did we just do that? Did we just do that? And Sam was just kind of yeah, we did it. Right. That's what happens. It moves
fast. That's how it works here. That's how it works.
That's it, stupid.
Life in the fast lane, sweetie.
Will someone get her a cupcake? And just yes, there's that real Aaron Sorkin said, it's okay to talk down to her because she's conservative too. So it's it makes it better, I think, in his logic. But anyway, yes, we get to that end with Toby being defeated and distraught. And, Bartlett rightfully says well, honestly, on an issue like this, I can give a damn what the average people think, because they don't really comprehend what the fuck's going on, which I'm there's some of these issues that people don't know what's going on. I don't think average people really know what's going on with nuclear fusion. They should be educated on it. They should kind of know and push for that. But the problem is that there's interests that control our media that are very invested in making sure that they don't know about it. And if they do know about it, they want to think it's a hoax, and they want to think it's hokey or dangerous, right, and they don't pursue it.
Well, and that, there's some part of my anarchist soul that bristles as always at the idea of no, see, there's a certain class of special smart people in the world. The type of people Aaron Sorkin is friends with, and they're the ones who really should be able to make all this.
And I'm not getting at that.
The rest of us are just too dumb to really understand what's going on.
Right.
But that's a conversation for another time. So I know you have a heart out here.
I know. Yeah, we can never know. But I will point out, Tim, I think it does have to do, because I think what someone Sorkin would say is that it's about education. It's not necessarily about education. It's about the information that they have.
Hey, Sorkin, can we? What do you say about reforming education? It's hard, man.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard, dude. It's hard, man. It's hey, man, if you can get into a charter school, You know, if your parents can afford it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, get on it. But the president decides to cheer Toby up by saying that saying that we can have a cigar and, you know, I'll beat you in a game of chess, which makes you think, Tim, we should have a game of chess too. I've never played you in a game of chess, I don't think, and
I'm terrible at chess.
You're terrible.
I'll play you at chess.
Okay, well, we'll see how I do against you. I'm not the best myself either, but I'm sure either one of us can be, you know, the guy who's smarter than you, Martin Sheen, you know, the guy who's smarter than you has got an election coming up in 2 years. And, you know, it could beat anyone's ass in chess, but, you know, yeah. I'd actually like to see their chess game. You can see quite a bit about a person from a chess game. But, yeah, that's pretty much all we really had. I got to wrap it up. I'm a working class person who got a flat tire, so I got to go change it before before I can hit the road and go back to work again, because you know how it goes. If you don't change it, the donut dies in 100 miles. So, or, you know, if you really stretch it out, because we're doing that because we're working class people. But I guess that's it for now. Unless Tim, do you have anything?
I will just say, all right, I think for next week we should plan on watching. You know, let's go with episode 7, the Portland trip, and let's go with episode 8, Shipley.
Okay, yeah, we can rock those. All right, well, I guess we'll see. I guess we'll come back next week for episode 7 and 8, probably regular time, but, you know, we'll just surprise you. We'll surprise you, one bot viewer on Twitch. We appreciate you.
Yeah, we don't want to maintain like a good viewership, so we'll just continue to
broadcast. I mean,
at random times at the crack of dawn. That's our strategy.
Right. So when the Fed bot watching, like, you know, they get to comment that like they're here from the original time, back when they could never get the outro music out on time. But yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, folks, until next time, keep working.
Keep on.